So, what's the ultimate test of power? We always talk about what people will do to get power. But what about when they already have it all? Well, we're about to dive into a story that answers that question with one of the most unbelievable decisions ever: the choice to just refuse a kingdom. I mean, really think about that for a second. You have the power to end wars, build an entire dynasty, get your name written in every history book for the next 1,000 years, and you just walk away. And get this isn't some fantasy what-if scenario. It's the real story we're unpacking today. All right, so let's meet the man at the center of all this. Trương vô kỵ. Now, this isn't your typical hero's journey. See, he's not on some quest for power. He's already got more than you can imagine. His journey is about a much, much harder question. What in the world do you do with it once you have it? And the source of all this power is something truly profound. It's a legendary skill known as the Great Shift of Heaven and Earth. But hey, this isn't just about being the strongest guy in the room. No. This skill gives its master this deep, fundamental insight into how the universe actually works. It basically puts the world at their feet. And this quote, wow, it gets right to the heart of who this guy is. Right from the very beginning, his ambition was just different. Everyone else was chasing power so they could rule the world of men. He was chasing it to understand the ways of heaven. His goal was wisdom, not a crown. But, this kind of personal philosophy was on a collision course with a really brutal reality. The world he was living in wasn't some peaceful place for quiet thinking. It was a world completely on fire. We are talking about a time of absolute turmoil. The Ming and Yuan forces are locked in this devastating war. The land is shattered, people are suffering everywhere, and everybody, from the soldiers on the front lines to the people just trying to survive, they're all desperately looking for a leader, a savior who can finally end all the chaos. And this line just perfectly captures the grim reality of the situation. It cuts right through all the grand stories about war. At the end of the day, whether you say you're fighting for power or for righteousness, the result is exactly the same. History, this suggests, isn't written in ink. It's written in blood. And this is the world that's begging for a king. So, all of this brings him to the central conflict of our story. He's standing at a massive fork in the road, with two totally different futures laid out in front of him. And this isn't just a political choice, It's a deeply personal one about who he is and who he wants to be. This one little exchange he has with Chioman, his love and his closest confidant, just lays it all out there. She presents the obvious path, right? You have the power, you have the support, just be a king. But his reply, it cuts right to the heart of his problem. For him, the choice isn't between being a peasant and a king. It's between being a king and just being a man. A person who's true to himself. So let's break it down. You've got the king's path. Rule the world, end the war, be remembered forever by history. A life of public duty, historical greatness. Then you have the man's path. Live for yourself, find peace, and be remembered, but only by the person you love. The question is, which path is actually worth more? Okay, so the moment of truth. The whole world is watching. The throne is literally his for the taking. And he makes his decision. And it's a decision that echoes through legend for one simple reason. It's the one choice nobody else would ever make. This is the moment of the great refusal. I mean, that is just such a profound statement. He gets that there are people out there who are driven by ambition, who need power. But he sees himself as someone who is deeply afraid of what power does to a person's soul, how it eats away at the very self he worked so hard to understand. So he gives the world to them, and he keeps freedom for himself. And look, this wasn't some snap decision he made on a whim. It was a very deliberate process. First, he's offered the throne. Then, he really looks at the true cost of power, the compromises, the violence, the fact you might lose yourself. Then, he makes a calculated choice to entrust the future to his most capable subordinate, Chu Nguyên. And only then, in that final step, does he turn his back on the whole thing and choose a life of love and freedom. So, what happens after a choice like that? Well, his decision creates two totally different kinds of legacies, and it forces us to ask a really fundamental question. What does it actually mean to leave your mark on the world? And right here, you can see how the two legacies just split apart. Chu Nguyên, the guy who took the throne, he's remembered by history. He's the founder of a dynasty, his name's in every textbook, and Trương vô kỵ, he's just a footnote. But In legend, in the stories people tell each other, the roles are completely reversed. The emperor is the footnote, and Trungvoki becomes the hero of the story, the one who is powerful enough to let it all go. And that just sums it all up so beautifully, doesn't it? History is about recording events and rulers. But the sacred text, the deeper wisdom, the legends that teach us about what it means to be human, that story belongs to the one who understood that true power isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when and how to let go. And that really leads us to the ultimate lesson here. Power can be thrust upon you. Fate, circumstances, they might choose you to be the one. But that's only half the story. The person who gets that power then has to make the most important choice of all, to choose themselves. And so that leaves us with one last question to think about. Is a hero defined by the battles they win and the empires they build? Or are they defined by the temptations they overcome and the pieces of their own soul they refuse to sacrifice? Which choice, at the end of the day, is the more heroic one?